Their first contact at the Boundary Captain. Elena Voss stood on the bridge of the Pathfinder, watching the stars through the viewport with the quiet satisfaction of someone who'd just made history. They were 8 billion kilometers from home, farther than any human had ever traveled. The Oort cloud drifted around them like frozen ghosts, and beyond that the true void. Contact, Lieutenant Zhao announced, fingers dancing across his console. Unknown vessel, bearing 037. It's not broadcasting any identification. Elena's pulse quickened. This was it. 50 years of searching, of launching probes and listening to the cosmic silence, and finally, they weren't alone. Open a channel, all frequencies. She straightened her uniform, acutely aware that her next words would be studied by historians for centuries. Unknown vessel. This is Captain Elena Voss of the United Earthship Pathfinder. We come in peace and seek. The response cut through her greeting like a scalpel. Retreat. By the eldest, retreat immediately. The translated voice carried a texture of pure panic, multiple vocal cords vibrating in dissonance. You are in violation of Protocol Epsilon. Return to your containment zone. Elena exchanged glances with her first officer, Commander Park. Neither had expected terror. Unknown vessel, we mean no harm. We're explorers from the third planet of this system. We call it Earth or Sol 3, and we, Sol 3. The voice fractured into what the translator interpreted as distressed clicking. Ancestors preserve us. You're from there. The alien ship, a elegant structure of silver spirals and pulsing bioluminescence, suddenly banked hard, thrusters flaring as it accelerated away from the Pathfinder. They're transmitting, Zhao reported. Wideband broadcast, I think it's a distress signal. Distress? We haven't done anything. Park moved to tactical. Captain, I'm detecting energy signatures all around us. Dozens of them. They're powering up. Elena's mouth went dry. Battle stations. Negative on weapons, Zhao said quickly. They're beacons, ancient ones by the look of the radiation signatures. Captain, some of these have been dormant for. The computer estimates 2 to 3 million years. The main screen flickered as their AI, Vera, compiled the data into a visual representation. Elena's breath caught. The Pathfinder sat at the center of a vast spherical lattice, thousands upon thousands of dormant satellites forming a perfect shell around their solar system. A cage they'd never known existed. Vera, can you translate the beacon signals? Working, Captain. The language is layered. Multiple species contributed to these warnings over vast time periods. A pause. Translation complete. Displaying primary message. Text scrolled across the screen in crisp white letters. Boundary marker 447 Theta. Designation, Genesis Class Hazard Zone, Cradle World, Sol 3, Earth, Protocol, Epsilon. In effect, warning to all travelers, this system breeds extinction. Elena read it twice, certain she'd misunderstood. Breeds extinction? The Kethrin ship, Vera had identified their rescuers as the Kethrin Confederacy, slowed its retreat. A new voice came through, older, weighted with authority. Human vessel. I am Senior Navigator Kesthor. Please, for your own safety and ours, return to your world. You do not understand what you are. Then help us understand, Elena said carefully. Why are we quarantined? What do these warnings mean? A long silence followed. Then, you've read the designation, Genesis Class. Your world is unique, horrifyingly so. In 4 billion years of catalogued evolution, only 17 planets have earned that classification. Earth is the youngest. Park leaned toward Elena. Should I be flattered or terrified? The warnings aren't just about you, Kesthor continued. Vera, may I access your xenobiology databases? Elena nodded to Zhao, who established the data link. Seconds later, the Kethrin's voice returned, shaking. Your planet currently hosts approximately 8 million species. Of those, we've identified 47 that would qualify as Apex-class threats if they achieved tool use. 47. Most worlds produce one such species per geological epoch. Earth has 47 simultaneously. The main screen shifted, displaying a rapidly scrolling list. Species of concern: SOL3, Homo sapiens, primary threat, tool user; Orcanus, Orca, pack hunter, problem-solving capability; Corvus corax, tool user, abstract reasoning; Octopus vulgaris, problem solver, escape artist, camouflage master; Ursus arctos, apex predator, omnivorous adaptation; Crocodilus porosus, ambush predator, unchanged for 200 million years. The list continued: wolves, eagles, great white sharks, elephants, even certain species of ant colonies marked as hive mind threat potential. "This is insane," Park whispered. "They're afraid of crows?" "You don't understand," Thor said. "These aren't individual threats. It's the pattern. Earth doesn't produce prey species that evolve defenses. It produces predators that evolve better ways to kill. Your gravity is 23% higher than galactic average. Your climate zones swing from lethal heat to lethal cold. Your planet undergoes mass extinction events every 60 to 70 million years, and every time, life doesn't just survive, it comes back more aggressive." Elena found her voice. "You said we're not the first Earth species to reach space." Another pause. This one felt heavier. "Correct, Captain Voss. You are the fifth." The bridge went silent except for the hum of life support. 4 other intelligent species evolved on Earth, Thor continued. "The eldest ones have records. 65 million years ago, a species you've never found fossils for, feathered, tool-using descendants of what you call theropods, developed rudimentary spacecraft. They were expanding toward your moon when the asteroid struck. 300 million years before that, an aquatic cephalopod civilization built cities in your oceans. They nearly developed fusion before a climate shift rendered them extinct. There were others. Each time, Earth wiped the slate clean and started over. Each time something new clawed its way to the top." Elena gripped the armrest of her chair. "And each time, someone out here was watching. The eldest ones maintain the quarantine. Not out of cruelty, Captain. Out of necessity. Every species Earth produces follows the same pattern. Adapt, organize, dominate, expand. Your own history confirms this. You've driven hundreds of species to extinction. You've conquered every environment on your planet. Deserts, tundras, oceans, even the air. You've domesticated the wolf, Captain. You took one of your planet's apex predators and turned it into a companion. What species does that?" "A species that survives," Elena said quietly. "Precisely. And that's what terrifies us." The Kethrin ship rotated, its bioluminescence pulsing in patterns Vera translated as distress markers. "I've transmitted a request to the Galactic Council," Thor said. "They'll want to meet you. Understand that this is unprecedented. No Genesis-class species has ever broken quarantine while the planet was still inhabited. You've forced a decision that hasn't been made in 800 million years." "And what decision is that?" Elena asked. "Whether to let you join us, or ensure you never leave your system again." The transmission ended. The Pathfinder hung in space, surrounded by ancient warnings and the weight of a judgment not yet passed. Elena looked at her crew. Humans, all of them. Products of Earth's relentless forge. "Vera, plot a course. If they want to meet us, let's not keep them waiting." "Captain," Park said cautiously, "we might be flying into our own trial." Elena smiled, a predator's smile, though she'd never thought of it that way before. "Then let's make sure they remember that Earth doesn't raise victims." The Council of Echoes, the journey to Threshold Station, took 6 weeks through corridors of space the Kethrin called safe channels, routes, carefully mapped to avoid territorial disputes and the mysterious dead zones where ancient wars had rendered star systems uninhabitable. The Pathfinder traveled in convoy, surrounded by Kethrin warships that Thor insisted were escorts, though Elena recognized a prison detail when she saw one. Threshold Station materialized from the darkness like a frozen dream. It was a structure of impossible scale, a ring with a diameter larger than Jupiter's orbit, constructed from materials that predated Earth's sun. Crystalline spires jutted from its surface, each one pulsing with light and rhythms that Vera couldn't quite translate. Home to the Galactic Council, Kesithor explained via comm, built by the Ythmara during the Third Epoch, when most current species were still aquatic. This is where judgments are rendered. The word judgment sent ice through Elena's spine. They docked in a bay that adjusted its atmosphere to match Earth standard, a courtesy that felt ominous. As Elena led her landing party through corridors that seemed to shift and breathe, she noticed other species backing away, their translators buzzing with what Vera identified as warnings. A six-limbed creature with crystalline skin actually fled down a side passage. "They're afraid of us," Park murmured. "Actually afraid. Stay calm," Elena ordered. "We're not here to prove them right." The council chamber was vast enough to swallow cathedrals. 7 elevated platforms ringed a central floor, each occupied by a different species. But Elena's attention locked onto the largest platform, where something impossible held court. The Ythmara were giants, 30 meters tall, their bodies composed of interlocking crystal formations that refracted light into impossible colors. Faces, if they could be called that, shifted within the crystal like thoughts made visible. The largest among them leaned forward, and when it spoke, the sound bypassed Elena's ears entirely, resonating directly in her bones. "Homo sapiens, welcome to Threshold. I am Archive Keeper Learthenmus, eldest of the Ythmara. I have lived 847 million years. I was young when your planet's continents were still forming. I have witnessed the rise and fall of 6,000 civilizations," those crystalline eyes fixed on Elena. "And I have watched your world longer than you can comprehend." Elena forced herself to meet that ancient gaze. "Then you know we come in peace." Peace. The word echoed through the chamber like shattered glass. "Let me show you what we know of peace from Sol 3. The chamber darkened. Holographic images materialized above the central floor, Earth rotating slowly. Then the view zoomed in, and Elena's breath caught. A city of spiraling towers rose from the ocean, constructed from what looked like living coral and bioluminescent polymers. Sleek, tentacled creatures moved through the water-filled structures with obvious intelligence, manipulating tools with frightening dexterity. "The Kethel Ascendancy," Learthenmus narrated. 312 million years ago, they discovered mathematics, developed metallurgy underwater using thermal vents, and achieved rudimentary spaceflight through bioengineered launch structures. They were expanding to your moon when a volcanic winter triggered by continental shift rendered your oceans acidic. 96% extinction. The Kethel vanished in less than 3 generations. The image shifted. Now a sprawling city of stone and metal covered what Elena recognized as the Yucatan Peninsula. Feathered bipeds, clearly evolved from dinosaurs, moved through streets, their clawed hands carrying tools and weapons. The Soros Collective. 66 million years ago, they had discovered agriculture, astronomy, and were developing rocket technology when your planet decided their time was finished. We watched the asteroid approach. We could have intervened. The eldest ones debated for 7 cycles. In the end, we chose to let Earth's cycle complete. "You let them die?" Elena's voice cracked. "You could have saved them?" "Saved them for what?" Another crystalline elder spoke, its voice like wind through canyons. "To spread across the galaxy?" "Captain Voss, the Soros Collective was in the midst of their 3rd global war when the asteroid struck. They were 18 years from nuclear weapons. We did not murder them. We simply chose not to interfere with the pattern." The holograms continued, each more devastating than the last. "A fungal network that had achieved consciousness and built living cities in your forests, wiped out by an ice age. A species of tool-using corvids that had developed agriculture and written language, gone during the Permian extinction. And others, fragments of civilizations that Earth had created and then casually erased. Earth doesn't build species, Captain," Learthenmus said. "It builds weapons. Every 60 to 70 million years, it erases the board and forces evolution to start over with a single directive: survive at any cost. The result is your planet's current ecosystem, a gallery of killers, each one refined through endless competition." Park stepped forward. "And humans? What makes us worse than the others?" "You're not worse, Commander. You're more successful." The Ythmara's crystal body pulsed with colors that Vera translated as profound unease. "The Soros reached space in 40,000 years from first tool use. The Kethel took 60,000. Homo sapiens accomplished it in 300,000 years, while simultaneously driving your megafauna to extinction, domesticating multiple apex predators, developing nuclear weapons, and establishing permanent settlements on every landmass, including your polar regions. You didn't just survive Earth, Captain. You conquered it so thoroughly that your planet now bends to your will. A Kethran delegate spoke up, its voice apologetic. We've analyzed your cultural databases. Your species has a concept called persistence hunting. You would chase prey for days until it collapsed from exhaustion. What predator does that? One that refuses to quit, Elena said quietly. Exactly. Learthenmus leaned back. And that is why we maintain Protocol Epsilon. Not because humans are evil, but because Earth breeds species that cannot, will not stop. Every civilization that has encountered a Genesis-class species has faced the same choice: integrate them and risk eventual dominance, or contain them and maintain stability. So you'll keep us caged? Elena felt anger rising. Lock us in our system and hope we never break out? The council votes in one cycle, another elder announced. But you should know the precedent. In 800 million years, only 3 Genesis-class species have been granted integration. All 3 eventually dominated their galactic sectors. 2 had to be retired. The word retired hung in the air like a death sentence. Elena looked at her crew, then back at the council. Then let me propose an alternative. You're afraid we'll dominate, fine. Let us prove otherwise. Give us a task, something that requires cooperation, not conquest. A joint mission, humans and council species working together. If we succeed without trying to take over, you grant us provisional membership. If we fail, we return to quarantine willingly. The council chamber erupted in debate. Clicks, chimes, seismic rumbles of discussion. Finally, Learthenmus raised a crystalline limb for silence. There is one matter. The void rift in Sector 447 has been expanding. Ships that enter don't return. We suspect it may be connected to an ancient weapon from the Unity Wars. The eldest ones have avoided investigating because the risk is too great for species who value individual survival highly. But not for humans, Park said, understanding dawning. Because we're the species that walks into danger voluntarily. Precisely. Learthenmus studied them. Succeed and we'll reconsider quarantine. Fail, and at least you'll have died proving us wrong about integration. Elena met her crew's eyes. Each one nodded. We accept. As the council adjourned, Kesthor approached Elena privately. Captain, I should tell you, the Ithmara aren't just afraid of what you might do. They're afraid because they recognize you. Their own species came from a Genesis-class world. 6 billion years ago, they nearly destroyed the galaxy in their expansion. They've spent eons trying to prevent another species from repeating their mistakes. Elena absorbed this, so they're not protecting the galaxy from us. No, Kesthor said softly. They're protecting you from becoming them. Later, as the Pathfinder prepared for departure, Elena stood alone on the observation deck, staring at the stars. Earth was invisible from here, but she felt its presence, that small blue world that had forged her species in fire and extinction. Vera, she said quietly, log this. We came from a world that tried to kill us for millions of years, but we didn't survive by being the strongest. We survived by being the most stubborn, by refusing to quit, by looking at an ice age or a predator or the emptiness of space and saying, we'll find a way. She pressed her hand against the cold viewport. They're afraid we'll dominate the galaxy. Maybe they're right to be afraid. But they're wrong about why. We won't dominate because we're predators. We'll succeed because Earth taught us the one lesson that matters: adapt or die, and humanity is very, very good at adapting. The Pathfinder turned toward Sector 447, carrying Earth's latest survivors toward the unknown. Behind them, the ancient warnings still pulsed their eternal message. But ahead lay something more important than fear: the chance to prove that Earth's children could be more than their world intended.